Hello, podcast fam. I am thrilled to share some exciting news. My book, So Grow Lead, is officially live on Amazon. This book is more than just my story of starting a nonprofit and building a peanut butter factory in Malawi. So trust me, the ups and downs of that journey are worth the read. It's also packed with practical strategies to help nonprofit leaders like you tackle challenges with clarity, courage, and a whole lot of heart. If you've ever wondered how to turn your vision into reality, navigate the inevitable hurdles, and build something meaningful, whether in your organization or in your own life, this book is for you. I'd be so grateful for your support in spreading the word. Grab your copy of So Grow Lead in the show notes and on Amazon today. Let's keep sowing seeds of impact together. Welcome to the Lead with Heart podcast, which is dedicated to nonprofit leaders who are passionate about making a difference. I'm your host, Haley Cooper, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on a journey of growth, inspiration, and transformation. At Lead with Heart, we believe that leading with heart means embracing empathy, compassion, and authenticity in every aspect of our work. It's about putting people first, fostering genuine connections, and creating a positive impact that goes beyond numbers and metrics. In the nonprofit world, it can often feel like we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. The challenges are immense and the road can be lonely. But here, you're not alone. This podcast is a community where we support each other, share our stories, and learn together. Each episode will dive into personal and professional development topics tailored specifically for nonprofit leaders. From innovative fundraising strategies and effective team management to self-care practices and leadership insights, we're here to provide you with practical strategies that you can apply to your life and work. My goal is to empower you, elevate your leadership, and engage your heart in all that you do. I want to help you navigate the unique challenges of the nonprofit sector with confidence and resilience, so you can continue to create meaningful change in the world. So whether you're driving to a meeting, taking a break, or winding down for the day, tune in and join us on this journey. Together we'll discover what it truly means to lead with heart. Thank you for being here. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Lead with Heart. I'm your host, Haley Cooper, and I am thrilled to introduce our guest, David. He is an inspiring leader and the visionary behind the Aligned Living System. David's mission is to empower individuals to find purpose, clarity, and fulfillment in their lives through a holistic, integrative approach. So whether you're a corporate executive, an entrepreneur, a nonprofit professional, or someone just looking for some personal healing and growth, you want to tune in to this episode right now because he has insights that have transformed lives across the globe. Thank you, David, for being here. Welcome to the Lead with Heart podcast.
Yeah, well, thanks, Haley. It's an honor to be here.
I am selfishly excited for this episode, and I know our listeners will be too. Once we just dive right in, I love what we were talking about off camera, so I'm excited to bring this onto camera. Can you tell me a little bit more about your background? Who are you and what do you do?
For sure. It's great. I always feel like the best conversation happens right before we hit record, right? We're always having these great conversations. But yeah, so my background originally was in education. I was a teacher for 12 years and a soccer coach. And I was an entrepreneur and in sales. Then really, it all shifted for me on my 30th birthday. I got invited to a psychic fair. And to me, that was just a whole new world. I was like, I hadn't really thought of ever being even that interested in it. But when I walked in, there was this huge room, probably about 50 different psychics and health energetic practitioners. And there's this one woman, Sandy, sitting there. And I was like, I'm just supposed to sit down with her. I don't even know why. And as I did, she just started shuffling her cards and laying them out. And she said, I see that you're planning this big move across the country, huh? But not everybody's happy with this, are they? And you need to do what's right for you. And I was just blown away because there's no way she could know this, right? And then she went on to say that job you've been wanting is going to come through in the next 2 weeks. And then when she finished, she said, the same gift I have, I'm hearing it's going to open up for you too, and quick. And I took it with a grain of salt, but I was pretty weirded out. That's a lot to kind of take in when it's not your world. And so literally the very next day I was going over to my realtor's office. And I've been having some problems with her. She was being a little sketchy and I wanted to terminate the contract. And she'd been blowing me off for about a week. So I'm like, I'm just going to take matters in my own hands and show up. And I'm all worked up and frustrated. I remember being in the turn lane. And as I'm about to turn in, I hear this subtle voice in the back of my head that goes, not now. And I was like, just ignored it though, because I was on a mission. Then not now. And I for sure heard it that time. And I still ignored it because I'm like, I'm just going to take care of this. And then finally, not now. It was like loud and clear. And I was like, oh, okay. Drove home. About an hour later, I'm sitting on the couch and I hear the same subtle voice. Now, this is so weird. Get in the car, drive over. As I'm opening the front door to the realtor's office, she's walking in the back door, hands me the contract to sign it to terminate it. And we're done. And I walk in, I'm like, man, this world Sandy opened up for me. Like, life's going to be pretty easy from here on out. But it was a super naive perspective, really, because our intuition is meant to guide us really in our own personal growth and what we're here to do and the impact we're here to have. So it wasn't just easy street. It was really, my life became about personal development and spiritual development, and it set me on this track. And then in 2016, I was driving with my family through Vail, Colorado, which I know you said you spent some time in Colorado as well. So I don't know if you know the pass where an I-70 where it curves before it goes up over the pass. As we're coming around that last corner, there's this huge, beautiful rainbow coming down. And I realized it was coming down right into the road. As we came around the corner, I'm like, we're driving into this thing. And as we did, we just covered in these refracted rainbows. It was such a bizarre experience. I remember looking in the back seat of my daughters, Olivia and Ava, they were like covered in them. There was a couple in the car next to us. They both had their hands up in the air, like, what? And I don't know how either of us were driving, because at that moment I popped into the state of consciousness where that intuitive part of me that psychic part of me that had become so real in my life was right there. But for the first time, at the same time, I was also the father, the teacher, the grounded business person, and they integrated all at once. And it was this kind of stabilized place inside me where all my gifts were present at once. And it took me like maybe 3 years to unpack that and turn it into what's the aligned living system, which is what I teach other people how to access and stabilize in that same state of consciousness where we're grounded and solid, but still super tapped in and guided. And so it's steered the work I do in my private practice and in the nonprofit, the Aligned Living Foundation too.
Yeah, I love that story. And I love how it all just weaved together. And there were those like pivotal moments that led you to where you are today and really set you up on that journey. And can you talk a little bit more about the aligned living system? Because I'm aware of what you're talking about, but maybe a listener's like state of consciousness, grounded, like I'm here, I'm listening, aren't I conscious? What does that actually mean? And how is the aligned living system designed?
Yeah, great. And it's funny. It's always an interesting thing to ground that conversation, right? Making this real when we're talking about things like consciousness. And we all only know our own inner world, right? And so our experience of being, we tend to assume other people are having the same experience. And so I work a lot with people that are more empathic, meaning that they tend to feel emotions from other people. And it's really a growing part of the population for sure. But I think the easiest way to know if that's something that's activated in you is that experience of walking into a room where there's a bunch of people. What does it feel like? Are you just inside yourself going, oh, okay, I'm in a room now, there's a bunch of people here? Or do you go, oof, I'm having an experience of just like the room's showing up inside me. And if somebody's angry, I feel that. If somebody's happy, I feel that. If somebody's excited, like I get a pulse for things. And there's always a communication going on with their people around me and inside of me. I always say it's like we have these cameras and microphones that can read emotional energy, and they're on outside, but the screens and the speakers are on inside. And so we're just streaming the outside world emotionally into us. And it's a lot to manage. But some of us that have had that experience, it's a very rich experience, but it's also a very intense experience. And it feels like a gift, but it often feels like not so much of a gift because we get exhausted, we get overwhelmed, we get hijacked by other people's agendas and energy, and it's just a ton to manage.
But yeah, I love that idea because I think we're mirrors for each other, right? Mm-hmm. And we can mirror each other's emotions. And I think that's an important thing to have awareness around. And you're talking about off camera, like something that I've had to work on. Is this my own emotion or is this someone else's? And am I carrying it unnecessarily, or can I let it go? And I think there's a lifelong process of learning, but I think it's an important one.
Yeah. And that's really the work that I do. And that experience of when we're walking into a situation where it's so easy for somebody else's emotional priority to become ours. Because when we're walking through the world and we're feeling ourselves, when we're empathic, we tend to tap into whoever comes into our world. And so they may come into us with an urgency or a discomfort. And the moment we feel their discomfort, it shows up in here. And now the only way we know we're going to be able to feel comfortable is by helping them resolve whatever is making them uncomfortable. And so we tend to prioritize other people's stuff because it actually shows up as a priority inside of us, because we can't do whatever it is we want to do until we get that to feel better. People would laugh and they go, God, you must be the happiest guy like I've ever met. 'Cause every time I see you, you're smiling. And I thought, wow, I must be this really happy guy. And as I started to do this work, I got a little more honest with myself. I'm like, I think I smile all the time because it makes other people smile. And then they feel better to me. Right? It's not that I don't want people to feel better, but we're always eliciting a better response from the people around us because it affects our inner world so much. And when that is, our operating system, it always affects our behavior. It affects what we prioritize. It affects how we show up, like what we're willing to talk about, where we want to go, where we don't want to go, what we don't want to talk about, because we're always managing everybody else's emotions so that ours can feel okay. And it's like bailing the ocean with a 5-gallon bucket. The tide just keeps coming in and you bail it and it pours back out. As soon as you get one person to feel good, then somebody else comes in and they're upset. Or, oh, you're so good at making me feel good. And so we become this thing for people that gives away ourselves in a lot of ways. Even though it's a gift, I really feel like it's a gift that is misunderstood, because when people talk about being truly empathic, they say this ability to really feel other people's emotions deeply. And I think that we call that because that's how we experience it. But the truth is, being empathic is actually really the ability to feel emotions deeply. And when we're born, just like every other baby, even the ones that have 5 senses that don't have that 6th sensory emotional ability to feel other people, we just try to make sense of our world. And so every baby that tastes, touch, feel, smell, that they're just engaging with the world, trying to make sense of it and make sense of themselves. That was their experience. But those of us that had that empathic ability, we just flipped it on outside and said, ask the world, our parents, our caregivers, our siblings, our surroundings, who are we? What's going on here? And it never occurred to us that maybe that wasn't the best structure for our energetic field. And so really what I help people do initially is go, instead of turning those cameras and microphones, or sometimes I call them security cameras, because we're always trying to make everything okay out there. Right? We're observing like, oh, no, right. Teaching them how to turn them off, reset them, and turn them on ourselves. So instead of being 90% external and 10% internal with our gift, we're actually 90% internal and 10% external. So we still have an overlay of what other people are experiencing, but it's not way stronger than ours. It doesn't hijack us. And when we do that, we're able to walk through all these situations that used to feel overwhelming to us, used to feel draining. We're able to be way more supportive because other people's energy is not as contagious. It doesn't take us up and down with them. There's a freedom in it that, and it's funny to me, it's so mechanical in nature, because if we say, if our empathic ability, just like our vision, if whatever we look at, we're seeing and we're experiencing. And so if we looked at something different, we're having a different experience. If whatever we're listening and whatever we're tasting, we don't go, oh my God, it's amazing. I looked over here and I had a different experience than when I looked over there. We just go, oh, well, of course I did. And so the same thing with our empathic ability. If we place it on ourselves primarily, instead of primarily externally, as we just defaulted to as babies, really, we have a different experience of our reality. And it changes things, in minutes.
Imagine a fundraising partner that not only helps you raise more money, but also supports you in retaining your donors. A partner that helps you raise funds both online and on location, so you can grow your impact faster. That's DonorBox, a comprehensive suite of tools, services, and resources that give fundraisers just like you a custom solution to tackle your unique challenges, helping you achieve the growth and sustainability your organization needs. Helping you help others. Visit donorbox.org to learn more. Yeah, I love how you frame that. And I think a lot of how we develop that, like you said, it's a security camera. It's designed to protect us in some way,
Mhm.
right? Because we've
Yeah,
had to build up these mechanisms to keep ourselves safe. And I think you talk about in your work, and I think, again, it can stem from past trauma that
of
then
course.
leads you to take on that emotional capacity of other people and try to fix it as your own
Sure,
responsibility.
sure.
And I think also healing is a significant aspect of personal growth. So, how does your system help those individuals find clarity and peace while
Mhm.
addressing those deep seated emotional wounds?
Yeah, and so this is, I always say there's three tiers to what happens with aligned living. First one is what I call the honeymoon period, where it's just, oh my God, the world's energy is not coming at me constantly anymore. And they're like, we just want to just be in it and go, oh my God, I can't believe how good it feels. Because we don't realize how good we feel because we've only known ourselves as a reflection of our surroundings. And so that's often why empaths love to be out in the woods or out in nature and out in the water or away from people. But we also love to be around people too. So, but we don't really know ourselves in our own energy. We know ourselves as a mixture of. And so when people go through that first phase with me with the aligned living system, they find this, they're like, oh my God, I have great energy. I had no idea. I feel really good and I just want more of me. And I love the quiet that I didn't know how loud the energy was around me. And so from there, then we move into what's I call phase two, which I call the calls coming from inside the building. And it's always a funny experience for people because they're like, oh, I feel great. And they're walking around and they're like, oh, picking up some really crappy energy from somewhere. What is that? Is there somebody I'm leaking? And they check their field and the way they're structured. And they go, no. And then there's like this realization of, oh no, that crappy energy is me. This is my trauma. This is my wound. And there's something fascinating that happens when they do that is they realize how small it looks because when we've been tapped in externally, we're not just tapped into people, we're also tapped into collective energies like collective wounds. And so say we felt like abandonment's a really big one. We didn't feel supported or whatever it is. There's a whole other huge portion of the population that's carrying that same wound. And we tend to take our lifeboats and lash them together in these shared wounds and go, and it makes this big energetic stuck energy that we tap into and go, gosh, you know what? Like I had this really big challenge in my childhood where I just didn't feel supported. People are like, oh, me too, right? And now we're stabilizing this wound. And then there's millions of other people with that same wound that have stabilized it. And we go to heal it in ourselves, but it doesn't budge because we're still corded to that collective. We're still energetically tied into it and trying to get everybody else to heal through us. And it just doesn't work. So many people, it's their identity. It's how they keep themselves safe it's where they stay stuck and they're just not ready to move it. So when we disconnect from the collective wound and we open up inside ourselves with it, and then we have an awareness of it, we go, oh, I don't want to carry that anymore. And we tend to just flush it out and go, I've been trying to get rid of that thing for 30 years. And it just left. I don't, how did that happen? Because we're not trying to heal our part. We're trying to heal everybody in doing it. And the truth is, once we clear it out of our field and out of ourselves, then we show up and it ends up helping to disrupt those lifeboats and giving people other options. But we can't do it while we're still connected so deeply to the what's wrong, to the why I'm stuck. But when it's only ours, like it's shockingly small. It's shockingly simple. And then the phase three is where we start to become much more intuitive because it's so quiet in there and open up to all the energetics, which is super fun. It's like a playground. But that phase two is really where so much of that healing comes from because we are able to let go of trauma. And I've worked with veterans, I've worked with people that have had really serious experiences that just didn't want to budge for them. Yeah. And it's when we separate it from our identity, when we separate it from the collective wound, we realize, this little tiny thing, it's been haunting me for years because it's actually been my key to plug into a much bigger version of it.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because it's not about the trauma didn't happen, it happened, but it is about taking that emotional component out of it.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, there's an element of that where we just see it more clearly. We see it in more matter of fact. And then we move into a little bit of a choice point with it. And any of us that have been working through trauma, like we know, or anxiety or whatever, it doesn't feel like there's a choice point in it. We're just like comes in and we're like, oh gosh, this is a lot to deal with. Like when people go, oh, you should really just choose to take some deep, there's no choice here. Like I'm having an experience. But when we are able to push all that outside of us and look at our part of it, look at the story more clearly. And it's surprising to me. Like I said, I think I said it actually when we were talking beforehand about energy is the deepest form of communication. But we pretend it doesn't exist. If somebody said something nice to you or not nice to you, we feel it and we protect ourselves. But when somebody directs anger towards you or somebody directs love towards you, like it just hits us inside. And same thing when we're trying to heal something, if we're trying to ignore the energetic component of it, our attachment to it, or the way that it sits in our field, that deep communication, it just keeps it stuck. And when we loosen that up, we're able to move into a choice point that just didn't exist before.
Yeah. And I think also there's the book called The Body Keeps Score.
Yeah.
And when we don't process, the emotions get stored in our body.
Yep.
A lot of the work that I do is around what you're saying. There's this energetic connection, but there's this emotional connection with people. We want to feel seen. We want to feel heard. We want to feel like we belong. And when that connection gets cut, we get lost and we don't know how to navigate the world. So then we choose ineffective coping strategies to reach for that connection because it's how we were taught growing up. And so it's about maintaining that emotional connection within yourself and then reaching for a positive cycle of engagement with the person if that's accessible to you. It isn't always, but I think it's important to know that the attachment that we build with other people as a natural way of us trying to navigate the world.
Absolutely. And it's funny too, like the way that I see it from that same thing from an energetic perspective, as empaths, if we're security cameras around out there, the feedback loop always originates outside of us. So like maybe we start a conversation, first thing I do is feel you instead of feeling me. And so now, however you're feeling is where I'm coming into the conversation with, or I walk into a room and the way people feel, it initiates outside of us. So we're always in response to whatever it is that's going on. And when we bring our awareness back home to ourselves, we start with the awareness of self and bring that into the experience. And it sounds subtle. And I know a lot of this stuff's kind of hard to wrap your head around without the experience of it. And so much of this work is very experiential. But when we start that feedback loop from ourselves and go, this is who I am, this is what I bring, and we bring that into the experience and let our energy show up first before we're feeling out and going, oh, what's going on out here? Like it just changes the way people engage with us. And we actually have the ability to change a room. And a big part of that is we don't need it to be different. And as empaths, when we walk into a room and it doesn't feel good, we need it to be different. We need people to be happier. We need somebody to be, or in relationships, we need people to be different because it makes us so uncomfortable. And when we're already comfortable inside of ourselves, because we're tapping into our energy first, we stop needing the world to be different. And so we don't realize it, but we're unconsciously pushing on people all the time, trying to get them to be the way that's going to make us comfortable. And when we stop doing that, like it enhances our relationships. I've had quite a few clients go, I've had this relationship with my brother or my parent or whatever. And for the first time, they're opening up to me and then things are shifting. Nothing's different other than that I'm showing up feeling good and not needing them to be different for me to feel good. And so I'm not pushing on them to change. And people feel it. People go, I don't feel safe here. I don't feel comfortable because you're not accepting me how I am. And when we do, it makes so much sense, but it feels miraculous in the moment because we see a different behavior and go, gosh, this person's opening up to me and they've like defended themselves constantly around me. And all of a sudden now they're acting safe. What do I do with that? And it creates a depth of connection that is often shocking to people.
Yeah, you get the outcome that you wanted originally.
Yeah, by trying to protect them, by trying to make them different, they become, Yeah.
So you also apply this work through the Aligned Living Foundation that focuses on youth 14 to 24. Right. And that is such a pivotal time in someone's life. So obviously you have a background as a teacher, but can you share a little bit more like your own personal experience or what led you to apply this to youth?
Yeah, it's funny how it came about because those were not easy years for me. I was so empathic and so sensitive. Growing up at ADHD, dyslexic, the world it wasn't designed for my mind and the way that I work. It was super challenging. I remember actually when I was in college, so would have been junior year of college, I was having, it was just hitting me really hard how different the world operated and how people operated from me. And that sense of just feeling like people just didn't care about each other. People weren't worried about how they were affecting each other. I had a bunch of experiences where I felt betrayed, and I was just really in this state of, I don't know what my future looks like. I don't really see a place for me here. I don't really know how I'm going to fit in on this planet. And it started manifesting into a lot of anxiety attacks and just a ton of anxiety in general. So I remember junior year, I was in the ed design class, and I was sitting there. We had these projects we'd been working on, and the professor was talking about them. And I started to feel that familiar feeling then of that anxiety coming on, and it just like this terror feeling inside myself where it started to build, and I could feel my vision start to go in and my hearing get fuzzy. And I was just sitting at my desk, like just trying to hold it together. And then I realized the professor was actually saying my name and asking me a question. I was like, oh God, oh no. And I looked up, and he was asking me about the project, and I was like trying to it's like this map. I was like just babbling out. And I remember the girl sitting next to me was looking at me like, God, there's something's going on with him. I don't know what it is, but the teacher didn't get it at all. And so he kept asking me question after question. And he finally just gave up and moved on. And I was like, eventually the anxiety attack stopped, and same kind of experience. I didn't know when the next one was coming. It was just part of me. And I remember at that point going, God, I don't even know what this is. I didn't know what an anxiety attack was. I didn't know how to deal with it. I just ride it out and wait for the terror to stop. I had said to myself, if I ever figure out how to deal with my own energy and the way that I interact with people, and I'm going to teach other people my age, because that was when it was hitting me the hardest in my life. I think I was like 21, 22. I'm going to teach other people how to do that, how to structure this so that they can actually aren't having the same experience of just riding it out and suffering through it and waiting for it to stop. And, that they can claim their life a lot more rather than just avoiding things, which was often the technique I would use. And it was funny, when I was working on the foundation, I had totally forgotten about that story and that experience. And as I was bringing it to being, all of a sudden it came back to me in this like flash of memory. I'm like, oh my God, like I promised myself 20 something years ago that I would do this. And I'm doing it. And I totally forgot about the promise, but it was fulfilling on a promise I'd forgotten myself. And so the same stuff that I do with adults, working with the 14 to 24-year-olds, that tend to have a lot less baggage too. So it's funny how quickly they can go, particularly young kids, they're like, oh, I like this better. I'm just going to do this instead. Like the world feels better. And so they don't have this personality thing that they're trying to work through, or they're much more fluid. And so for that age group, it's quick for everybody, but it's so fun to see these kids that just go, oh yeah, actually this feels more like me. And they just start being it. And so it's really fun to watch how fast it changes their experience of being, their anxiety levels, I would say sometimes they call this the opt-out generation, right? After COVID, the kids were given the opportunity to not be involved. And it was really hard for so many of them to go back into it. My daughters were in that same age group during COVID. And the idea of when they feel safe, when they feel clean and clear and things don't feel overwhelming, all of a sudden they start to opt in because it feels fun rather than overwhelming. And so many kids would rather stay at home, and they don't know why. I just feel like staying at home, but it's because it just doesn't feel good. But when they learn to structure their energy differently so that they can bring home this inner space with them wherever they go, it changes everything. And it's funny, it's so effective for adults, but watching kids do it, like they're just like, oh yeah, this is me now. This is who I am. It's instant. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like it's just setting them up for success in the future too, right? Whether that's in relationships or in the workplace, in professional lives. Like when you think about business and you think about like managerial courses or leadership courses you take, they don't talk about this stuff. No. And I think it's such an important aspect of how we show up in the workplace, how we show up in relationships, how we navigate the world. And I think this has to be incorporated more along with other things. But I think this is such an important piece for people to, especially youth, to understand at such a pivotal age.
Yeah. And they're so sensitive now. Like so many of the kids coming in are just so ultra. And like maybe sensitive is like, it's kind of maybe they're just ultra low aware. They can feel other people so deeply. And it's such a strong experience of their being and their reality. And so to have these tools that were given to me in that spontaneous moment in 2016, when it felt like a zip file that just downloaded in me. And I'm like, I know who to work with. I knew how to help them. I know how to help myself. And my experience of being changed in an instant to get to bring that to people that had similar operating systems, and I'm like, God, you're going to love this. It changes things in a minute. And so it's so fun to be able to bring that to young people as well, because there's just no need for us to be struggling with our gifts, because most of us that have had that have gone like, is this a gift? I don't know. I'm not so sure that it is.
Hey there, podcast family. If you're like me and deeply committed to improving your leadership skills and fostering better connections with your team, I've got something truly amazing to share with you. I'm proud to introduce the EMC Masterclass, something I talk about often as a certified trainer. It's an incredible program developed by the renowned Dr. Lola Gershfeld, an organizational psychologist and corporate emotional connection expert. You might remember her from a podcast episode where she shared invaluable insights into the world of emotional connection. Dr. Gershfeld's EMC Leaders courses are designed for anyone working with people, whether you're a manager, supervisor, team leader, educator, coach, mentor, or a team member. This program is truly for everyone looking to enhance their communication and collaboration skills to raise more revenue for their mission. Now, let me tell you why the EMC Masterclass is a game changer. Dr. Gershfeld's groundbreaking emotional connection process has been integrated into top universities' curriculum and recognized by international organizations like ICF, HRCI, and SHRM. Humans are wired to seek emotional safety, and when we feel safe, we're more likely to take risks, share innovative ideas, and collaborate effectively. The EMC process is the catalyst for creating that emotional safety within your team. The virtual EMC Masterclass consists of 8 modules with 4 hours of expertly recorded material, 13 quizzes to reinforce your learning, and a workbook filled with activities for offline practice and something I still refer to daily. Ready to become an emotional connection master? Dr. Gershfeld is offering an exclusive detail for our podcast listeners. Use the code LEADWITHHEART to enjoy a generous 10% discount on the EMC Masterclass. Head over to emcleaders.com and enroll in the EMC Masterclass today. Yeah, and before we hopped on the recording, you were talking about this amazing vision for your foundation. So can you share a little bit more about what that looks like for the youth that you serve?
Yeah. And the big vision for this is to really have some sort of a ranch type property where the kids can come, and we do more in-person programs, because I mostly work online now, but I'd love to do more in-person programs. And part of that reason is really wanting it to be an equine therapy center as well. And anybody that's been involved with horses, they're just absolutely amazing how they interact. And they're so energetic. Our electromagnetic fields are generated by our hearts mostly. That's 60 times stronger than what our brain generates. But for horses, it's like massive. And so that energy that's carried back and forth, that invisible communication, the effect they have when they interact with people, because they're so authentic. They're just so, the feedback that they give in that energetic communication, it's life-changing. And there's tons of stuff done with veterans. There's tons of stuff done with people that have all kinds of PTSD or whatever it is they're working through. And that equine therapy is absolutely amazing. So to be able to bring that to the kids and to have that opportunity for them to experience that, it just seems like they fit so well together.
Yeah, and what a profound way to tie it all together, because like you said, horses are very energetic. And so learning empathy and energy from an animal while trying to cultivate it yourself is so impactful.
Yeah, it just seems like it's an obvious fit to me. It's funny. I train coaches too in the aligned living system, which is what I call the work. And one of them already does a lot of work with horses and stuff. And he's one of the board members on the foundation. And so recently, it's funny because he was an SEO guy, and he was just like the computer guy. The SEO is like search engine optimization, help people be found on the internet and work for really big companies, and had a lot of success with it, and has his own private practice building website stuff. But he'd been doing this work, and then all of a sudden it opened up for him one day that he became an animal communicator, and he could hear the animal speaking. He was just like, what do I do with this? This stuff's been weird enough. What do I do with this now? And so to have him involved in it too, that's been part of our kind of co-vision of, because he has such a connection with animals as I do too, that just yeah, it's pretty exciting how it will all fit together as it happens.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're known for being a lifelong learner and always expanding your knowledge. So, how do you continue to evolve the aligned living system, and what latest area of study or practice excites you most?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like when we put ourselves out there as teachers, like there's a certain level of mastery that we need and a certain level of expertise. And at the same time, I think it's just important to see ourselves as novices and to be ready to have an area come up, maybe an old trauma or an old experience or something, that a coping mechanism that we see that we haven't seen before, and just go, I'm a novice here. Maybe I have tools to deal with it, but I'm just so open and curious about what's underneath here. And so to me, I'm always doing personal development work. I invest a ton in going to different programs and working with some incredible people that it's such an important part of my life, because I know whenever I work through something, it becomes something I can teach as well. And so I would say right now, one of the things that in the last few months I've been working on is some stuff around safety opened up for me that I had no idea wasn't. And again, it's that same thing of, we know our inner world, we know our experience of being, but we don't really know what else is available. And even a lot of times when I share this, people go, oh yeah, I'm already doing that. And I can see their energy and go, well, there's stuff we can adjust and change that will actually enhance at times 100. And so the same thing I was experiencing with safety, I was like, there's this expansiveness in my lower energy centers, basically through the stomach down to the base of the spine, that I was like, it flows really nice, which is what we want our energy to do. But the expansiveness I've known has been up here. It's been in my heart. This feeling of there's all this space in here. When something is going on, I have this room to be in it inside myself. But recently, there's been an expansion in the energy centers that are connected with our safety. And as I found that to be an expansive place, some really interesting things happened. I was able to just see things through a different lens. I was been able to drop into a different space inside myself where I feel more safe and stable and secure. And I didn't know I didn't before, but it's just another degree of it, right? Oh, wow, this just jumped up to a level I didn't know was available. And the moment I did that, I could just see in other people's fields and help them expand in the same way, where they just were able to drop into themselves in a more stabilized way that supported them all around in every area of life and everywhere area of the way that they engage. And it's really fascinating when we look at safety. This is one of the things that surprised me the most was I thought, wow, I'm dropping into this safe place. Things are just going to feel safer. But what actually happened was it opened up the next arena for me of things to work through in my life that I didn't know were holding me back or were making me feel unsafe. And so often we have all these experiences in life that we don't even touch because we don't feel safe enough to open them up. Mm-hmm. And as we dropped into that space, and I've seen this with clients now, and like it really helped dial this in, as they drop into that safe place, they actually feel safe enough to deal with things that they hadn't felt safe to even look at before. And so it creates another tier of growth. And so for me, that was like, oh, I get to be the novice again. I get to experience these things of, oh, I forgot about that. Or yeah, that does happen. And then to be able to sit with it and feel it and move it through and do all the stuff, all the work I've done with other things. But having that new arena open up, which I was surprised, I'm like, I feel super safe. And now I'm allowing myself to actually get into the stuff that feels the most unsafe and get to know myself in an even deeper way, in a more expanded way. And it's really rewarding because we do this work to get to be more and more of ourselves and to show up more fully, to more self-expressed, because that's where all our joy is. That's where our sense of fulfillment is. But also when we foster this place inside of us that just feels like we have a home in here, we're not bouncing off our surroundings anymore. We're not reacting in the same way. Stuff can come at us and we go, oh, that's interesting, or that's not so interesting. But we have space in here where the threat level just drops in ways that I couldn't have imagined, because I started out with no room in here. It was just full of my surroundings. And so that next version of it has been just so fun. And it's really fun to take to clients as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I can relate to what you're saying. And there is a lot of freedom in not constantly living in that flight or fight mode. So I think learning that safety is really important. You mentioned, you've worked with a lot of amazing people to help you navigate all of this and then be able to take it on. Are there any specific 1 to 3 people that really stand out to you that always love sharing resources with my listeners? Anyone that you would recommend tuning into, reading, following on social media, looking at their websites?
Absolutely. It's funny. I work with Bo Easton a bunch, who's a speaker trainer. I don't know if you've come across him at all. And he actually ended up becoming a client after I worked with him for a while. So it was really cool, reciprocal. But he's absolutely amazing guy. So much about self-expression, so much like it starts out as speaker training, but it's really personal development. And really, when we think about being in front of an audience, what could be more intense than that? And so like we have to work through our stuff. And so I worked with him, did a year-long mastermind, then continued on to his programs beyond that. And that's been life-changing for me. Donnie Epstein with Network Spinal. He's a way out there, dude. But his work is absolutely amazing. In fact, there's Network Spinal practitioners around, but he does live events. Those are the two that have really jumped out and made the biggest difference for me, for sure.
And where can people find you and learn more about the work that you do?
Yeah. So really easy to find my webpage. It's davidwaldas.com. I'm also on Instagram and YouTube. But if you go to my webpage, you'll see a breakdown to my podcast. You'll see a breakdown to my programs. And there's a bunch of free resources on there too. So people can take a free video course. There's access to my book on there. And there's a free video course on my book that's on there. So there's a lot of resources if people are curious about what this is. And then the Aligned Living Foundation is alignedlivingfoundation.org. And so that's for the 14 to 24-year-olds and that big vision of creating a ranch someday and having the horses. And that's where all that takes place.
Well, we will be sure to link all that in the show notes and where we promote. Thank you so much, David, for being on this podcast, for having this chat with me. I have truly enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, thanks, Haley. It's been really fun. I appreciate you bringing me on your platform and letting me share. And I really enjoyed connecting.
If you have valued these stories or learned something from what you've heard, please share this podcast episode or follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your support, and together we can build a better community and world.